Welcome to Locust Street's digital photography program. I'm Darren. Today we're going to get into some tips about understanding aperture. In photography, there's a thing called the exposure triangle. It's composed of your aperture, your shutter speed, and your ISO. These three things are the holy trinity for taking a technically correct picture. So to understand how they work in relativity to each other, I'm going to break down to you specifically aperture today, and we'll get into the others in later videos. Okay, to make this simple, we're going to break this down into three parts: what it is, what it does, and how to control it. So what is aperture? Aperture is a function of your lens. It is the opening inside of the camera that allows a certain amount of light to come in at a certain time. Mechanically speaking, the opening is a set of blades that are interlocked that increase and decrease in increments that are measured in what we call f-stops. If you ever hear anybody ask you what your f-stop is, they mean aperture. Those two words are technically interchangeable. Okay, so let's get into what it does. Both of your main functions, shutter speed and aperture, control how light comes in a specific way. Essentially, because each function controls how much light can come into the camera, how that light comes in is actually what changes the function. And that's where all the magic happens. And f-stop in aperture is all about how much can be in focus at one time. The way aperture allows light into the camera controls how much can be in focus at one time, which is referred to as a depth of field. A wider opening creates a shallow depth of field, meaning there'll be one point of small focus. A smaller opening actually creates a much deeper depth of field, meaning more things at different distances can actually be in focus at the same time. This function is particularly useful for isolating your subject from its background or including your entire environment in your shot. Depending on what you may need to shoot, the f-stop or choice to change it up or down has more to do with how much you need to get in your shot and how much you want to exclude. Alright, last but not least, how do you control it? So in most cameras, you'll have a dedicated dial on the front or back of the camera that controls your aperture. In some cases, it's the same button that controls your shutter speed. So to find a way to alternate between them, there's often an exposure button, which is a plus and a minus in a little square box. Hold that down, spin the dial, change the number. If your camera is completely digital, sometimes you'll have a display that'll have the aperture ring or the F number. That's your aperture. Pretty straightforward. Spin the dial, change the number. And now that you're aware of how to use your aperture on your camera, you are one step closer to mastering photography. So go out there, take some pictures. Appreciate you.